And our first story comes from East End House. It's called Seeds of the City. And please welcome our first storyteller, Katie Todd.
So what do you get when a high school student devotes his summer to an internship about food in the city? That's what I'm trying to find out as I sit down with Marcus. The lanky teen is fidgeting nervously as we talk, and I'm jotting down notes when something he says really jumps out at me. He goes, I don't know. I guess sometimes I like to do kind things. Kind things, huh? Well, a lot of us like to do kind things, but I'd never heard it put quite like that, and especially not from a 14-year-old. I ask Marcus what he means, and he tells me this story. So Marcus walks up to an intersection where an older man is leaning up against a mailbox, and the walk signal's taking a while, so Marcus turns to the man and he stammers, "Pretty hot, huh?" "Better than sleeping in the snow," says the man. The white lights flash on and Marcus crosses the street, but the man's words stick with him, and 5 minutes later Marcus is back on the street corner handing the man a sandwich. Marcus feels pretty good as he skips up his front steps, but his heart sinks when he sees the bag of fresh groceries on the kitchen counter. They're from the East End House food pantry. Here he just fed a homeless man he didn't know, but his own family still needs help putting food on the table every single day. I gotta make some money, Marcus realizes. So a few weeks later, Marcus, who has been coming to East End House Community Center since preschool, applies for the organization's Food and the Urban Environment Leadership Summer Internship. And then about a month later, he's taking his kind things to scale. For a month, Marcus and his fellow interns have been tending the East End House garden beds. They're learning how to mulch and divide and transplant and weed and compost and harvest. And today, the group is at an urban farm where every inch of the city plot is covered with an array of tall and stringy, short and bushy, and curly plants, and all of them are edible. Marcus and his friends are prepping the soil for vegetables that will eventually be distributed to homeless women. "Use your weight," laughs the group's leader, Abby. "But there's no friction," Marcus calls back as he strains his sweaty hands on the shovel. "No, your foot." Abby flashes a wry smile as she steps onto the little lip of the shovel where the metal meets the wooden handle. She might be 6 inches shorter than Marcus, but the point of her shovel slides sharply into the ground. Marcus tries it, and a grin lights across his face as he starts moving dirt with newfound force. Next to him, one of his interns is rubbing his hands. He shakes his head at Marcus and says, "I'm going to have blisters." But Marcus doesn't flinch, and he replies, "It's worth it. I mean, this is a farm with a moral. They don't just make money, they grow healthy, local food, and they give it to people who need it." The other intern sticks with rubbing his hands, but Marcus can't stop thinking, can I do that? Can I use food to help people? By the time I sit down with Marcus, he's a great gardener, and he knows all the ins and outs of working in the East End House food pantry. He's visited an urban farm, the Greater Boston Food Bank, a sustainable agriculture company, a farmer's market, and more. He's even gotten himself a second job at a restaurant he visited with his fellow interns after his palpable desire to help and his love of food made such a positive impression on the restaurant staff. But what strikes me the most from our conversation is the way Marcus describes how the internship has helped him discern a plan for action. Armed with new skills and knowledge, now Marcus has more than an affinity for doing kind things. He has a strategy to make a difference. Here's what he tells me. "From all the work we've done in the pantry, I know lots of people need basic things. There's a lot of need, but it's not just a need for food. A lot of people actually have enough food, they just don't have good food, like vegetables. I want to make an urban farm that gives food to people who need it. I know I can't do the whole system right away, but I have to start somewhere. I've been thinking and researching a lot and learning about monoculture and crop diversity to figure out how to avoid superpests. I'm working on my plan for a future urban garden, and I'm starting right now with seeds and organic container gardens at home. From a youth with a giving heart to an intern developing skills to a young man with tactical plans to fulfill a dream, Marcus leaves me with one last thought. He says confidently, "You know, maybe it will only make one basket of food this year, but if I can't feed the whole city yet, you can bet I'm at least going to feed my neighbors." Thank you.
Thank you, Katie. Now, unlike American Idol, we're going to hear from only one judge for each of our finalists. We have a little bit of time pressure here. So, Tani Boston, let's start with you. What did you think about Katie's story?
Katie, awesome job, first of all. I think that you were great in your oration. It takes a lot to take a story from the written version to actually getting in front of people and reciting it, so great job with that. In terms of the story you told, I thought it was great. I love the way you started with little details to make me want to engage more and listen more to find out where is she going with this. And then when I actually found out the character of the story was Marcus, and he was a 14-year-old, and how his whole story was sparked by seeing that homeless person, you know, on the street corner, kind of like sparked the story from the start. So I could appreciate the way that the story developed throughout, and then I also could appreciate your wrap-up at the end, where you kind of reminded us where Marcus started as the youthful intern, then how he developed into that working young man who was thinking about ways that he could help his community and take what he learned to feed people. So great job.
Very good. Let's hear again for Katie Todd. Thank you. Well done. Thanks, Connie.